Hey everyone! Today we're going to make the Baby Belle bucket bag from Oro Rosa Patterns. This little bucket bag is so cute. You're going to love it. It comes with a flap, or you can leave the flap off. This is what it would look like without the flap. You can have a recessed zipper inside, or you can leave that off as well. Inside there's two slip zipper pocket combos and a pretty big interior so you can fit lots of things. I'm going to snap this shut real quick and show you what it looks like on the body. It's like just this perfect little mini size. It's so cute. You all are going to love this as per usual. So let's go ahead and get sewing the Baby Belle bucket bag from Oro Rosa. Okay, I've gone ahead and trimmed my corners and made my line down the middle. I'm going to take my double-sided tape off and fold my edges to the center. I'm going to let it taper out because I'm just doing the short connector. And then we'll top stitch down both sides and repeat for the next one. And then I'm doing the crossbody strap only. So I've made my markings and put double-sided tape on, and we're going to do it the same way. Fold our edges to the center. And then once we're done folding the edges to the center, we'll go ahead and fold that once more so the raw edges are hidden. Like this. And then top stitch down those two long edges. Now that you've got those done, we're going to put the connectors to the side. And then we'll grab our hardware and we're going to start with a swivel clip. We're going to loop it through the swivel clip and fold it over 1.5 inches, making sure this folded over area is the back side. We're going to punch a hole at 5/8 of an inch, and then we'll install a rivet. Now that that's installed, go ahead and go to the other end and grab your swivel and thread it up and over that center bar. I like to leave a pretty big loop. Then you're going to take your swivel and slide that on, ensuring it's on the outside. Then you're going to come back up the same way you went in and over your center bar 1.5 inches again. Then we're going to punch a mark about 5/8 of an inch from the end and install your rivet. Go ahead and grab your main panels and your top trims. Make sure those are the smaller ones. And just grab one set for now. Lay it across the top. I'm going to do it this way. And we're going to stitch across the top here at 3/8 of an inch. And then we'll repeat the same process for the second panel and top trim. I went ahead and used a 3.5 stitch length on my two pieces of vinyl here, and we're going to now trim the top trim exterior piece only. So I'm going to use these duckbill scissors. Then we'll go ahead and put some double-sided tape right where we trimmed everything off. We'll take that double-sided tape backing off and flip our top trim up and press it flat. Then we can top stitch across that folded edge. I'll use a 5.5 stitch length. We're going to top stitch on the top trim side, and then we'll repeat that whole process for the second one. Okay, now that that's top stitched, go ahead and flip it over and trim the edge of it so you can get the bulk out of the seam allowance. You're going to do that for both sides and then repeat on the other one. If you're using a tag, this is where you can insert it now. Okay, now we're going to flip over our panel so the top trim is at the bottom, and we're going to measure up 2 inches centered from the folded over edge of the top trim, and we're going to make a mark. And this is where our turn lock is going to go. I'm going to use a magnet. So we're going to go ahead and mark for the any side of our magnet. I'm going to cut my holes, place the any side. I got a scrap of Decaville Heavy and my washer. And then I'm going to put a strip of duct tape over both of my sets of prongs. Okay, we'll set the main panel aside for a moment and we'll grab our flap. If we're making one, we're going to put the lining right sides together with the exterior, and we're going to sew around all 3 sides, leaving that top straight edge open. We're going to use a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then we're going to trim our seam allowance down to 1/8 of an inch. Okay, we can go ahead and turn this right sides out. And I'm going to use a turning tool, but you can use a chopstick, a crochet hook, a pen, you know, with the closed end, and poke out your curves and then those corners at the top as well. We'll go top stitch that all the way around. Go ahead and lay 1/8 inch double-sided tape along the raw edge of your flap, and then grab your main panel back, flip it so the top trim is facing you. You're going to center your flap a 1/2 inch down from your folded edge of your trim. I'm sorry, I put my tape on the wrong side. It's actually supposed to be on the exterior side. And then we'll stitch it on with a 3/16 of an inch seam allowance, making sure not to sew past the edges. So then we'll go ahead and take that flap and flip it up, press it flat with our fingers, hammer any edges you want, and then we're going to top stitch this at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. She says not to back stitch, but I'm just going to back stitch really neatly. If you haven't trimmed the top corners, this is your chance to do it again. I'm going to do it on both sides of this panel. I already did the front. I'm going to go ahead and grab our front panel and put the 2 right sides together. I'm going to staple right at my seam allowances so those don't shift. And then I'm going to stitch with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way down both sides. Okay, go ahead and trim those seams and make sure you leave 3/8 of an inch untrimmed at the top. Then go ahead and grab your bottom panel and find the centers on both sides. Then we can start clipping in the bottom, starting at the center marking. I like to start with clips and then staple it in after. And then we'll sew around with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm going to sew just like this with my base facing me right now. Okay, I went ahead and trimmed my base to 1/8 of an inch, And I put my double-sided tape across the top now before I turn my bag out. So now I'm going to turn this out, and this is what you have so far. Excuse my flap. Ooh, that's exciting. Okay, go ahead and grab your next pack, and you'll need your lining pocket piece, and we're going to center our zipper on the bottom edge of the lining pocket if you're using directional fabric. Otherwise it doesn't matter. And then we'll baste this edge on. Now that it's basted, go ahead and grab your front pocket piece and put it right sides together. This should go zipper edge to zipper edge. And then we're going to sew that on at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Then we're going to go ahead and press these two right sides together. And then we'll top stitch along that folded edge we just made. Now that that's top stitched, we can go ahead and take that lining piece and fold it right sides together and line it centered onto the back of the zipper. And then we'll baste that on. Now that you have that basted to the top, go ahead and flip your pocket out of the way, and we're going to stitch down this edge at 3/8 of an inch. We're going to sew from the zipper edge down. Don't sew over this edge. And you also want to trim your pocket down, not cutting into your zipper. Go ahead and grab your main lining and go to the bottom edge, and we're going to put our zipper panel's raw edge right up against that. And then we're going to stitch that on at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now that that's done, we're going to fold our main lining away from our zipper, and then we're going to wrap it around the edge of our zipper. See how that did that there? On both sides. And I clip that down, and then I can kind of feel it all the way through where it wraps around for some more clips if you need. And then we're going to top stitch twice. We're going to top stitch close to the zipper and then on the folded edge. I'm going to start with the zipper edge and then the folded edge. Okay, for this next part, I like to grab my side panels and my clips and my zipper panel, and then we're going to take the main panel and fold it right sides together, and then we're going to just kind of leave it. I haven't lined it up with anything or done anything with it. I'm going to take my side panel and fold it or flip it right sides together and clip it to the top edge of the main panel. And then I'm going to clip it to the bottom edge of the zipper panel. So it's really only attached to one layer each. This is kind of free floating. And then I'm going to just press it flat till it fits in there nicely. And then I'll clip it in the center, and then I'll take the other one while I'm holding it flat and lay it right sides together and clip it down. And now we'll sew both of those at 3/8 of an inch. Then we'll trim the seam allowance on just the flap, fold it out, and top stitch. Go ahead and line up all 4 of your zipper panels if you are going to do zipper panels mirroring each other. So we've got a lining, an exterior, and a lining. I've measured and made my 3/4 inch mark and laid my double-sided tape. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing and fold over my edge just on the one side to meet that line on all 4 pieces. And then we're going to take an exterior and a lining and clip them right sides together and sew that opposite short end, so the one we didn't fold over. We're going to sew that with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now that that is done, go ahead and take your zipper and separate it a little bit and fold your edges at a 90-degree angle, and then tuck that back piece down so you get this little folded over edge. And then we'll base that down and repeat for the other one. Now that we have these folded edges on our zipper tape, we can move on and grab our zipper panel. And I'm going to lay my zipper right side up, push it all the way up against this edge we have here, and I'm going to clip it on, and then I'm going to baste this on, and I don't want to go over the edge. Now that I have that basted, I feel more confident to flip this over right sides together and stitch the 2 layers and the zipper together. Okay, you're going to go on ahead and trim the exterior off of the zipper panel all the way down as close as you can, and then trim it on the back side as well, just at this corner. Then we can flip this out, poke it out with a turning tool if you need, and then we can top stitch those 3 sides, leaving that curved edge alone for now, and then repeat for the other panel. Okay, now grab your lining panel and your zipper panels and mark the centers. Take the one that you want to be on the back side of your bag with the zipper panel that has the curve going to the left. You're going to match up your centers, and then you're going to curve this in. And then you're going to do that on the other side as well. Then you're going to go ahead and base that on and repeat on the other one. Okay, go ahead and mark your centers again if you need to. Then grab your top trim for your lining after clipping your zipper out of the way, and match your centers of the top trim to the center of your lining panel. Now this should hang over about a 1/4 inch on each side. Do be sure to start from the center. See my little bit of overhang on both sides? If you'd like to lay a strip of double-sided tape here, you can do that now. Then you can just flip it up, and we're going to top stitch on the lining side at 1/8 of an inch. The next few steps are the same as they were for the exterior. Line up your sides, make sure they match up, sew down the edge with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Do that for both sides. Then do the same thing for your base. You're going to put it on, stitch around at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then we'll meet back here. As for this 1/4 inch section overhang, sew at 3/8 of an inch and pivot into here and get down to 3/8 of an inch again. See how I pivoted there? Then repeat on the other side and then do the base. Okay, now we've put the tape on after trimming down all of our seams. And we'll remove our backing. And then we're gonna wrap our raw edge around our Decaville light. And then I didn't do that to my exterior, so I'm going to do that with my exterior as well. Now that you have your exterior and your lining both folded over, let's go ahead and stuff our lining inside our exterior. Make sure your zipper is going the direction you would like it to. Now we can go ahead and top stitch all the way around. Depending on your machine, you might want to top stitch from the inside. Go ahead and put your zipper pull on, and then grab your connectors and your D-rings. Mark. I'm going to do a 1/4 inch from the side and 5/8 of an inch up from the bottom on both sides of my connector, and then I'm gonna punch some holes with your D-ring on your connector centered. Put your connector over the edge, and then you're gonna make 2 placement markings and then punch those holes as well. And then you can go ahead and install your rivets, but they end up looking like this because I only used 2. After you've added your rivets, you can add your strap and you are all finished. Great job, everyone. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them below. See you next time. Bye.